I just wanted to ask you, first of all, just sort of jump straight in, how do you feel about the term disabled?
I'm very comfortable with it, and I've never tried to hide the fact that I am disabled, and I do class myself as disabled because I've got an obvious physical disability where I limp. But I think in general, I certainly find a lot of my colleagues, and certainly the more junior you are, I think there's almost a fear not to say that you're disabled because perhaps you'll be treated differently. You may find it more difficult to progress, but also sometimes perhaps we're in a bit of denial ourselves and we don't want to admit that we're disabled and we want to be the same as everyone else. So I think it's a very difficult term to actually come to terms with sometimes.
And do you think the worry about disclosing the term, say, on application forms, is that anything to do with sort of getting a place or funding, or what do you think that's about?
I think it is certainly, mental illness and disability, I think certainly is stigmatised, and I think that's well known. But I think on physical disabilities, again, yes, as you go in for a job, you don't want to be putting anything down that may make an employer or a consultant interviewing you think perhaps you're not up to the job. I hope that my physical disability doesn't make me any less of a good doctor. It certainly makes me change the way I have to work, and my shifts are changed accordingly. But I think a lot of doctors actually fear asking for that, for the fear of actually being sort of stigmatised and perhaps criticised by their peers as well.
I was going to come on to that. How does having a disability impact your work?
I certainly find on-call commitments and certainly the length of on-call shifts difficult because my leg gets more tired as the day goes on and I'm in a lot of pain. But they've been amended. I perhaps start slightly later so that I can still get the out-of-hours experience. And sometimes I'm located in certain places that I don't have to walk as far. So I'll perhaps be on call within certain departments. So on the whole, jobs have always been very, very sort of good. And the hospitals and consultants have also been very accommodating as well.
Have you experienced any resentment from your peers about the idea that maybe special dispensations are being made? Have you sensed any resentment at all?
In general, they're very understanding, and a lot of them know me from medical school, so I'm just one of them. But there are occasions, yes, certainly the changes to on-call rotas. At the end of the day, I'd rather be a good doctor that's fit and well than put me on a rota that actually makes me unwell, and then I have to take time off. So it's a fine balance. Do you want me there all the time every day, or do you want me there some of the time because I'm having to take time off because I'm overworked physically because of my leg?
And given what you've said about the reluctance amongst some disabled doctors to actually use the term, is there a community, is there a sense of community between you, perhaps as there might be between BME doctors, or is that missing?
It's certainly missing at the moment. I think there's perhaps been a bigger drive. I think disability is lagging behind perhaps 10 years, and I think it will become a more sort of prominent click perhaps in the future. Certainly the upgrading of the Equality Act has put disability up there now. But I think very often you don't know who else is disabled, so you haven't got that link. It's very obvious when you have sort of physical outgoing things that are obviously to be seen. But I think certainly working in Wales, it's one deanery. So at any one time, perhaps one disabled person will be in North Wales. I'm 300 odd miles south. I think the smaller deaneries perhaps have got a better chance to get it on the map sooner.
You're a member of the BMA. Do you feel that that's helped?
But certainly as a student, I was chair of the welfare committee, and that opened my eyes to a lot of the challenges that perhaps I didn't appreciate were going to face me and my colleagues as well. And certainly the BMA have been very supportive of me, and I think I'd encourage all disabled doctors to get actively involved in changing things, because if we can do it and we can change things, then we know that it'll work for our colleagues in the future.
So in what ways has the BMA, being a member of the BMA, helped you? Could you give some specific examples?
Yeah, certainly when there have been problems at the workplace, they've certainly got actively involved there. But I think it's certainly given me and others a platform to actually raise the profile of disability, slowly but surely. But that's the fabulous thing about medicine and about being disabled, is that despite being different, you're also the same as them, and you've still got a lot to offer, hopefully.
BMA members can get advice and support on any of the issues raised by speaking to one of our advisors on 0300 123 1233.